Okay, whenever you are ready, you can begin.
For as long as I can remember all of my life, I'm one of those people who cannot sit behind a desk and start studying. I cannot get going. And when I do, I go into a hyper-focused mode. And I cannot stop for hours until I burn myself out. That is until I started using the Pomodoro technique. Head backwards. All right. Today, the title of my speech is Pomodoro. The general, or my general purpose for today is to inform you, but my specific purpose is basically to tell you what Pomodoro is and what it has done for me, who developed it. But I can give you a brief overlay what it is. There's a lot of stuff to it, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But also how it's used and why it works. Now, where I learned Pomodoro, among other things like Getting Things Done by David Allen, I got a book called The Pomodoro Technique Illustrated. It's a good book. And also I refer to the website, Pomodoro Technique, the website there. It's easily found. It gives you a lot of good information how the system works. One of the main components of how Pomodoro works is it uses a timer. Now, Francisco Tirero, I'm using the Italian vowels correctly, would use a timer to tell himself when to start studying. This timer was shaped like a tomato. The Italian word for tomato is pomodoro. And so that's what he named his system. It does sound better than the tomato organization technique, so we go with Pomodoro. Now the basic core system, how the Pomodoro works, is it works on a 25 to 5 minute rest stop system. Once you start the timer, you've got 25 minutes to study. No interruptions, you lock into it. And then when the timer goes out to 25 minutes, you rest for 5 minutes. You reset the timer. And then you repeat. And each cycle is called Pomodoro. After about 4 cycles, you want to rest maybe about 25, 30 minutes. That's your basic standard modality of how to do it. Now why it works. It sounds simple on the surface, just 25 5-minute works here, but if you go into the website and you understand the system works, you're supposed to write down how many Pomodoros it takes to do a task. For example, when I do my math studies, which is a very abstract science to me, and I never seem to wrap my head around it, is I simply write down how many times I can do a Pomodoro during a math study. And I found out for me, the maximum study time I can do for math basically is 2 hours. After that, I can't push myself any further. And I can only study about 4 nights a week. I got to give myself some breaks in between. So having that feedback system tells me how often I can study, how far in advance I need to study. Knowing that, I don't wait till the last night to study my formulas and hope to take my test and pass. So it's a good feedback system. It shows you what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Now, every person is a little bit different, but you have to write it down, examine the data, and apply it and adapt it to you and how the system works. But it takes advantage of the work-rest cycle. Now, a person, Courtney Sider, she did a blog post around August 21st, 2014, and she cited a lot of different studies about the human brain, called the focus state and the diffuse state. Now, the focus state is where, obviously, when you're sitting down and you're studying the material, you're trying to ignore something, or if you're doing some particular task, writing letters, doing some administrative work, or whatever it may be. But they had analyzed people under CAT scans and other different observation criteria that when you rest for about 5-10 minutes during that sort of daydream type state, what they're doing, the brain is able to take that information that it absorbs and manipulate it and apply it to something. For some people, they read some formulas. Like me, I read some math formulas, go through it. I'm thinking about it, but when I kick back out of it, in my 5-minute state, when I walk around and think about this formula, it seems like the trigger just hits what that formula means and how I can apply it. And they call that the diffuse state, the daydream states. There's a whole lot of science behind it. I'm not about to get into it because then I wouldn't know what I was talking about anymore after that. Also, it's a conditioning system. It helps you train the brain to focus. Now, you heard my little bell there. Now, how many people remember the Pavlov dog experiment, where he would come to his dogs, and before he would feed them, he would ring a bell. And then he would keep doing this day after day, and so we got to the point where the dog, or when he rang the bell, the dog started to salivate, or drew a lot. That was a physical conditioning. Now, he doesn't really mention it in the book Pomodoro, but I was just pulling something out of my head about that, about the bell. Now, you can use a timer, but I use a particular app on my phone that starts the bell and ends it at a certain time. I think for me, and how this kind of works as a conditioning system, that it trains your brain when you hear that bell to start focusing. And then when I hear that bell 25 minutes later, it tells my brain to stop focusing. So it's a system that I'm able to use to help me to start and stop focusing at will and allow the natural curve of my brain, as far as learning, to work. So I call it the study of math. As soon as I get the bell, I start doing math. It's over. So in conclusion, I told you what Pomodoro was. It was invented by Francisco Tillero in the 1980s as an organizational technique, but I took part of that system and applied it for me to study mathematics. Why it works on a brain synaptic level, why it's a good feedback system to help you learn about yourself, and how you can use it to condition your brain to study at will. So with that said, I appreciate your listening. Thank you very much. Any questions? Oh.
You should put an F that is like made up with the timer on top.
I didn't have that in there. It would be neat. It'd be cool.
Then you'd actually be living on the door.
So any other questions?
Who had Fred's name on the paper?
Accurate, but you did really good with it. I could tell that you're a lot more confident talking without a visual aid.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just one more thing. I think it's a new thing, so I could see that a little bit. Especially when you went over to the side, you were like, yes. I was like, okay, there's the attention, the confidence. But other than that, you did a really good job. Especially how you applied it to something else about helps you, especially people who know about it. That would help a little bit. And yeah, I might try that.
One of the things, Fred, I think could have helped you with your difficulty at the end, where you're kind of surprised, like, oh, that's the end. Don't forget, if you would have thrown in a blank slide there.
I did, but I changed the format at the last minute and it's gone.
Okay, but as I say, that prevents it, because one of the problems with the way PowerPoint is set up is when you're at your last slide, if you hit it again, it kicks you out of the slideshow mode. That way that blank slide usually prevents that from happening. But otherwise, it's still pretty clear.